Well, good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to the return of the live broadcast. I am your host, Jacob Israel, and I am excited, and I gotta be honest, a little nervous to share this show with all of you. I hope you can hear me okay. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're buckle up for this one. This is 55 years in the making, this show. A lot of crazy, peculiar and wonderful things about to break down. We got Leak Project in the house. We got a lot of really cool people already here, so make sure that you smash the like. The final bride awaits. What does that mean? Sounds prophetic. Sounds a little strange. Well, right now Donald Trump is meeting with... Well, he's not meeting yet, but they are in China. They got a royal welcome. All the heads of tech on board. Big things going down. Big things. Musk himself back in really going on, because I got to tell you something. I don't think this is just about trade. Trade is something that is on the tips of everybody's tongue, because there's talk about like $1 trillion deals. Lots of things are going to be worked out. Stuff that's going on in Iran, stuff that's going on around the world. But you know what? This show is a whole other level of a show. Very strange. Probably noticed above Elon Musk, you have a little digital ID today. Well, King Charles has announced that they're going to be putting this forward. Now, there's a big shift right now. It's a big shift going on. You know that everybody's talking about digital ID. We're going to digital currency. You're not going to be able to scam the government anymore. In fact, today at 2 p.m., they were talking about the fraud that has been going on. But I'm thinking this is a little bit bigger. I'm thinking this story is holds a little bit more meaning to all of us. And I'm thinking June 11th is a day that's going to go down in history. Why do I say this? June 11th, Aztec Stadium in Mexico. FIFA World Cup is going on. Donald Trump. He had the new trophy. Remember I did a video about the old trophy and its connection to time travel, and it went viral? All it is weird. So, you know what? This is something that I want to do. I'm going to take this one step at a time. If you're with me, you're with me. If you're not, it doesn't really matter. In the grand scheme of things. Not for this one. You look at that thumbnail. What does this mean? You're looking at the new world. That's what you're looking at. Don't let the fake news media confuse you. There's a world order and it's in charge. They've taken over, and all by God's graces, as far as I'm concerned. Not really sure what it's going to mean for people like you and me, but we're going to get there. We're going to get there. June 11th. 2026 FIFA World Cup meeting in China right now. It's like coming up. June 12th, they have Steven Spielberg, Disclosure, the movie, coming. I'll be able to see it on my birthday. I turned 55. Now, I've been on a 55 kick. Something about that number has been rubbing me a weird way for a couple of months now. And I think I've cracked the code. Because it's going to be about 55 years since China was first welcomed into the United States. The Red Dragon was allowed to flood the earth, and we're allowed to do commerce and trade and all of that stuff. A lot of weird things happened 55 years ago. I was born. But this isn't just about me. This is about the date. The day I was born, Alcatraz. You remember that? The Rock? There is some talk about it becoming another prison in the future. But in 1971, let me tell you what happened, okay? Alcatraz, which was taken over and it was held from 1969, it was then released. No longer were the Indians allowed to, I shouldn't call them Indians, I should call them Native Americans, I should call them, what should I call them, indigenous. 1971, June 11th, The Rock. They were taken from The Rock. Now, why is this important? Well, there was a lot of other stuff that happened that day. June 11th, 1971, the renowned English aviator Sheila Scott began her third circumnavigation around the globe. Third time in a Piper Aztec plane named Mithri. Why is this important? We're going to get there. All of this stuff is going to come together in such a way, it's going to blow your mind. The keystone of the Pacific, June 11th, 1971, was opened up. It was given back to Japan. You see that this date, 55 years ago, 55 is an important number. You're going to find out. There was a lot of crazy stuff happening in the world. The Okinawa reversal, the reversion agreement, okay? The keystone, a sure foundation, the keystone of the Pacific given back to Japan. But not just that. Well, that was the day that China, Nixon, changed things, brought China back in. The flood of the dragon came into the United States. Day was born. And here we are 55 years later, and things are about to change. This is where it gets weird. Okay, the show's going to get very strange. You're going to have to follow me, because it's all going to make sense. And if you're here and you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm Jacob Israel. I take world events and I connect them to other things. And you're in probably the most important time to be alive, my friends. Okay? Most important time. Let's take a look at what President Donald Trump is saying. Okay, he actually said very clearly, he said, I will be asking President Xi, a leader of extraordinary distinction, to open up China. That's what Nixon did. So that these brilliant people can work their magic, MAGA, and help bring the People's Republic to an even higher level. In fact, I promise that when we are together, in the matter of hours, this is what's going down. This is all very strange to me. But not so strange that you all have to freak out just yet. Yeah, wait for that. So this was a picture of Nixon meeting with Mao, I believe his name is. Not like a history major or anything else, but that was the man. June 11th, 1971, U.S. announces free export of goods to China. Now, guess what's happening right now? Guess what's happening right now? Same thing. Same thing, and it's freaky to me. They, in fact, called it opening up. Now we're opening up for more trade, for more exports without the tariffs. Maybe free. I think that we're in like a very prophetic time. I think that this is the moment where everything changes. I'm telling you, I feel it. I've been holding this show back for a long time. I've been digging into my life. You should dig into yours. Take a look at your life. Take a look at the things that happen in your life. See if God's hand's all over it. I guarantee you God's hand is all over it. And a day is coming when those that have been downtrodden, those that have been attacked, those that have been captives, slaves, they're going to be set free. I think that's the day we're coming to. I think that's where I would know. I started off, my mom was like 19 when she had me. 19, single mother. Had to get her GED. Very poor. We started off in a place called Wilbur Peck Court till my biological father took off, stole everything, and left me there in the crib. Then my mother and I, we moved back in with my grandfather, Pop. It's Pop's ring right there. It's a golden ring, an onyx stone. You know what stone that is? That's the 11th tribe of Joseph, I have found out. The 11th tribe, the onyx stone. They wear it right over their heart. It's a big deal. It sucks up all the light. Give me all the light, Lord. 6 years of my life, I lived with my grandparents. Very, grandfather was a barber. Grandmother was she cleaned houses. She was a maid. She was like not a live-in, but a maid. Our backyard was a low-income housing development called Adams Garden. That's it right there. It's getting a refresh. It's crazy. I grew up in like the wealthiest town ever, and I was a poor, poor kid. Greenwich, Connecticut. You believe that? Greenwich, of all places. This is all going to tie in because all of these people, they hover in that area. They hover in that area. You know, Greenwich Mean Time is like the place in England, okay, between the River Thames, and it's known as the Prime Meridian, okay? It literally divides the world into hemispheres. Greenwich divides the world into hemispheres. Greenwich, Connecticut's named after the place that divides the world. This is going to make sense. Just stay with me. There's a lot of talk of aliens. Okay. The first time I ever became enamored with aliens, you all can tell me, was E.T. Do you remember that film? Biggest blockbuster of like all times. I remember going to see it on my birthday. You know why? Because it was released June 11th, 1982. Same day that Larry Holmes defended his title against Jerry Cooney. This is a big deal. Cooney was a big deal that he back in the day in my neighborhood. For some reason, Italian neighbor, very lower income. But my point is, here we have the movie that is all about phoning home, getting back home. It's all about getting back home. How many of you are craving to get back home? I am. I know I am for sure. I know that I'm one of those people that literally is dying to get back home to a place where I can feel free again spiritually. Thank God I have found a place with my wife and with my children. And that regardless of what I'm facing and regardless how things are, I have peace. But there's still that ache. It's like, it's not quite fulfilled yet. Where is that promise? Back in the day when they took the promised land, Caleb was one of the people that he was one of the spies that went into the land. And while everyone was, telling everybody don't enter in because they were preaching fear and doom and gloom and doom. Just imagine how everybody's nonstop talking about how you got to be scared and World War III and Civil War and bop, 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 bop. Caleb, when he came back from spying out the land, what ends up happening? Everybody's like, we can't do it. We can't do it. It's the worst. It's going to be, these people are terrible. You can't mess with the giants. David had no problem messing with the giant. And Caleb had no problem being honest and upright. And guess what? Thanks to that, Caleb, at the end, he goes to Joshua. He's like, yo, dude, I was promised a portion of land. I didn't want the best land. Give me the hardest land to work. Give me the most dangerous. And give me the land that's filled with the giants. And that's what Caleb took. This story is our story too. It's time to ask for your birthright, for your heritage. It's coming as long as you're doing the right thing. 1982, we have this movie coming out. Now, what happens 55 years later exactly? Same director, Disclosure Day. Now, the show is going to get so much cooler. You got to stick with me. You got to stick with me on this one. You got to follow it, and hopefully you're not getting too lost in the chat. We got a lot of people here. Make sure that you hit the like. Disclosure Day is coming out. It looks fire. I can't wait to see it. But the Pentagon's already releasing and saying, here's all the stuff. 44 years later, and this movie is coming out. You see that to the lower right hand of the screen? That right there is what they're calling this new UAP. They call it the chandelier. And it was like all making rounds just recently. Everybody was freaking out about it. Well, guess what? Me and others, probably Rex from Leak Project and others, we were all talking about it. But I said, that looks like the Star of Bethlehem. That's what I said. I said, it looks like the Star of Bethlehem to me. And why would I say this? It looked like a compass because I used to wear that necklace. I gave it to my son. So this is what's strange, okay? Let me show you. I'm going to play that video for you just to show you that I'm not making up stories. Let's get out of this for a second. Okay, 55 years later, same thing is happening. The whole thing to me is nuts. Opening up China to a broader 55-year of agreement. Okay, let me see if I can find this. I know I put it here somewhere. Doop-a-doo. Okay, UFO clip. Here we go. Let's see if I can find it. I think that's the digital ID. Oh, here we go. All right, great. So this is from January 11th, 2024. Just take a listen to this. Well, they actually just released another UAP today. Today is the big one. They call it the chandelier, not the jellyfish Like, we talked about, but this one's called the chandelier. You know what's funny about this is I take a look at this one right here and I look at it and I go, that looks familiar. That looks like the Star of Bethlehem. And I go, that looks like my necklace that I gave Ethan. Want to see what it looks like? Look at that. That's the necklace that I gave Ethan. He wears it now when he graduated when he was 6th grade. That's what it is. Take a look, right? Are you kidding me? That's your alien, the Star of Bethlehem. That's the chandelier. Had to play it twice for you, I think. Star of Bethlehem, right? Wild. And then here we are. And I think it's pretty cool, the whole thing. Obviously, I've been talking about the old aliens for quite some time. And ironically, that video, okay, that I reposted on May 8th, okay, this is January 11th. This is a little while ago. Let me come back to this. And let me show you something else. Give me a second here. All right. Disclosure. Aliens. Something's coming. You can't think that everything's been in vain. All the craziness, all the wackadoo stuff, all the test completes and all the dream come trues that I've been sharing over the years. You can't think that we're not going to enter into some time that's going to be pretty good for us if we're doing the right thing, and pretty bad for others if they're not. Like, you do the wrong thing, God's going to correct you. You do the wrong thing in God's name, God's going to correct you. Recently, I wrote a letter to Pope Leo, the American Pope. He's not coming to the 250th, really? It's because he's involved in other affairs. I did a couple of videos about St. Catherine and how all of this stuff was connected spiritually. And you're going to see why. Do you know what happened on my 12th birthday? 12's like a big number. I just find this weird. Take it for what you think. Jesus was in temple teaching 12. My novel, The Calling, which, by the way, I really hope everybody today goes to Amazon today and gets a copy, even if they have one already. I want to get The Calling. I want to pop the numbers, and I want it to get, you'll see why by the end of the show. But if you haven't read it, it's really like one of the best novels. And if you've never supported the channel before and I've been an encouragement to you, get a copy of the book. You can give it away. Do it today. It'd be great. 12 years old, the lead character, Thomas, in my novel. 12 years old, because 12 years old was when I, at St. Roch's Church, Roche's Church, who's known as the suffering saint, the plague saint. He had the worm. St. Roch's Church. All of this, very strange. 12 years old, I was at the St. Roch's Church. Jesus was in the temple. And on my birthday, because I remember I was actually a camp counselor. And I'm not sure exactly what comet I witnessed when I was around 12, but I very not even vaguely, very much remember seeing a comet. I just don't know which one it was. It would be cool if it was this one, because on June 11th, there was a comet that came out of nowhere. Nobody knew about. It was the third. Now, you're going to notice that 3 is the number for resurrection. 3 is a big deal. Sheila Scott, the aviator who took the plane, and this time, instead of going this way, this time went this way, went north. Okay? That was her third flight. Aztec Stadium. This is going to be their third time hosting the FIFA World Cup. You see, 3 is a number. It's very significant. So there was this comet. It was called Saguna Saigusa Fujikawa. I'm going to talk about it in a second. But what's even more interesting is the fact that there was an eclipse on my birthday, June 11th, 1983, at exactly 11:11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Guess where? Over Christmas Island. Christmas Island, June 11th, 1983, at 11:11 a.m. Total visible over Christmas Island. That's the totality of it. Total solar eclipse when I turned 12. Christmas Island bringing full totality along with Indonesia, Papua New Guinea. Maximum duration, 5 minutes. 5 is the number. 55. All of this is coming together. It's not about me. It's about the date. Believe me, I've gone down this path. It's just about the date, June 11th. I think it's a significant day. I just happen to be born on it too. On Christmas Island, there was this big eclipse. Nuts, right? Right? Well, you would think that that would be one thing, but there was also a comet. Comet, ironically enough, has a lot to do with the Jacob Israel from the Bible, which is, I don't know, I find strange. 3 is the number for resurrection. 3 is the number for rebirth. 3, on the third day. The third day is what everybody's waiting for. There was a comet named Suguno Sayagusa Fujikawa, a small, puzzling comet that nobody saw coming. Nobody knew was even like a thing. And, well, it was pretty bright. It was like the third brightest during its closest approach on June 11th, 1983. Now, the name's Suguna means field of cedar trees. Cedar trees. The phrase cedar trees of Jacob is very powerful because it's the tradition where Jacob, before going down to Egypt, he planted cedar tree saplings in the Holy Land of Egypt, instructing his descendants to take them when they left, making these trees tangible symbols of hope and their promised land during generations of slavery. We've been slaves. Eventually, these cedar trees were used for the temple, linking Jacob's foresight to Israel's destiny and divine promises. Cedar trees. A small puzzling comet, Suguna. And then, of course, there was Sayagusa, which means 3 branches. The 3 branches of Jacob refer to the poplar, the almond, and the plane trees. These were the 3 branches that Jacob was known for using to get the flock. Strange. It's my 12th birthday, June 11th. I'm telling you, I'm hoping maybe it's just going to be a great movie. But wouldn't it be great if all of a sudden it's like, there's no more tax. You've been released from your debt. Something huge. Or you just feel okay with your life and you have hope and you trust and you don't have to worry anymore. 3 branches of Jacob. And of course, Fujikawa means Wisteria River, which is sort of like a picture of, well, you could say like heaven, if you will. And I think we could use a little heaven in our lives. Lots of weird things. June 11th, right? China coming in. 55 years later, China's now, we're opening them up again. Whole thing is weird to me. Whole thing is weird to me. You know, it's another huge blockbuster movie that has to do with ancient life returning. Jurassic Park. Take a wild guess what day Jurassic Park was released. June 11th, 1993. That's when I turned 22. You know me with the numbers. I love 22. The Tav, the last letter of the Hebrew. This is just, it's weird. You know, the more I started looking into, once I found there was a comet and an eclipse same day on my birthday over Christmas Island at 11:11, and the comet's names were, I was like, well, what else happened on June 11th? You know, Timothy McVeigh was put to death on June 11th. It's very strange. Jurassic Park, ancient life, resurrected beyond man's control. That's when I turned 22. There were a lot of other events that I didn't even want to bring to the table, tragedies and all sorts of other things. But you know what else happened when I turned 22? And this is significant. This is weird. Because you know that's 22 is the Tav. Okay? It's like the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And it is like the beginning and the end. It's like the end of it all. Okay? It's the mark that you're sealed with. You're given the mark on your forehead of the Tav, which is an X. You on the X app? You should follow me at JacobIsrael71. You should follow me there. You could sacrifice legally animals. Ritual sacrifice. Ritual sacrifice on my 22nd birthday becomes a thing. Take a wild guess. Who's the one that wants to sacrifice? Yeah, it was like all sorts of witchcraft stuff. Look into them. Like voodoo. I mean, can't even make this up. I'm going to get back to China. I'm going to get back to, I'm going to talk to you about the digital ID soon. All of this stuff. But first we got to set the groundwork. We got to set the groundwork. Because June 11th was a big day. Now, back in Jesus' day, they had this census that they put this out. They put out a census, by the way. The Census Bureau announced on June 11th that they were about to put out the census test. June 11th, 2019. Just, I've had a weird life. I've been connected to a lot of interesting people. To this day, I get a kick out of people saying, oh, yeah, he used to be Joni Lamb's writer at Daystar. He's connected. He's Israel. And they're like, oh, he used to do the wrestling. I sell mattresses. After the accident that happened at the Culper Spy Ring, where my hearing was taken from me, and now I have this nonstop tonight. It's very difficult. You have no idea. It was very difficult. And this is why I don't do live shows as much, because it's very loud, especially when I don't have music going like right now. But I've had a weird, wonderful life, a blessed life. I've suffered, and I've been sick, and I've gone through some stuff, but I've done some weird things. Like God gave me a job working for WWE, Vince McMahon. How do I get to be the top writer over there? God, by God's hand. How? Because I was working at a place called Relax the Back Store, and I was selling mattresses and pillows and orthopedic furniture, and Shane McMahon had come in. You know who else came in that I sold a pillow to? Jacob sells a pillow. The irony? Ivanka Trump. It's like God brings these people to us, Like you have these stories. I'm telling you, if you look back, God's placed us. He hides us. The lost tribes, we've been scattered. And I think that's the deal, is that we start to come to the understanding of who we truly are in Christ. It's no longer I that live, but Christ that lives. That's what Paul said. I, Paul, don't live anymore. Wouldn't that be great to say? The life that I now live, I live with the faith of Christ Jesus. That's something. I'm the head writer, okay? And while I'm there, because of course it's a very normal thing for me to write horrible things about my boss to his face and the organization to their face, and then have them publish it. Because that makes a lot of sense. I said some pretty horrible things about Vince McMahon, about the organization. I created a whole group known as the Right to Censor, and well, they're the whole idea, besides taking the porn star and putting him in a committed relationship, besides taking the pimp, the godfather, and turning him into the good father, besides taking the woman who took off her clothes, put her in a committed relationship. God placed me there, and it's like I created this group called the Right to Censor. And what I would do is, because of course in the back of my mind, I was always feeling like, Lord, what do you have me doing here? I'm like reading my Bible on the plane. They used to make fun of me. Little old me. How do I get this job? How does this happen? Because I sell Shane McMahon a chair, and I say, hey, you're looking for writers. And I start sending in scripts. And then next thing you know, Vince Russo jumps ship. What happened when I got there too? They blew up, became the biggest than ever. What happened when I was fired? Vince McMahon, well, he was no longer a billionaire. XFL failed, tanked terribly. And the F on WWF was taken away. Couldn't do that anymore. And now guess what? Vince McMahon doesn't even own World Wrestling anymore. I was 30 years old when I got that job. 30 years old. The whole thing to me is nuts. It's nuts. In fact, if you take a look at the day that Vince McMahon paid $17.4 million cost to his misconduct investigation, you can look below it and you'll see Big Show's WWF New York return appearance in 2021. That was the last show. So I was literally fired. I was fired before that show, the Friday before. So here, Vince McMahon, this is the beginning of his, on the anniversary of it, I find it all wild. Now, this is Stevie Richards, okay, Michael Manna, and what did he do? He would come out and he would basically say, what you're doing is horrible, what you're doing is wrong, and he would basically, that was my way of dealing with where I was. And now Vince McMahon doesn't even own WWE anymore. And in fact, I just did a show recently called Curse. You can check that out. And they're saying it's pretty cursed. I had a feeling. Stuff's going on with them. I ended up doing something else. And but I ended up working at a place that I've talked about recently because Joni Lamb, who was my old boss, who I liked, felt so terrible for this family. I sent Joni an email exactly 2 weeks and 2 days before she passed away. And it was the video that I had just done where Trump was reading from First Chronicles about, it was a warning. You either get yourself in order or I'm going to take everything from you and turn this into like the laughing stock of the world. The whole world is going to say how God turned against you. I literally sent her this, like looking back. I mean, you can see it right there. Incredible coincidence with 2 Chronicles 7:11-22. Remember the coincidence that I did a video where I was quoting the same thing as Donald Trump, and it lined up because I had a vibe that was coming. God was going to take over, that God's voice is being heard, that it's literally happening, all of this stuff. Well, I said, give this a watch to Joni, and I said, it might blow your mind. Blessing and warning, a decree. Now she's horrible. Not to mention, the family's is torn. Oh God, it breaks my heart. But what's funny, when I got fired, you could look right there, because I got fired about if you look below, you'll see a video that I did in 2011 called the Fall of Saul. And you'll see there's a image from that video. I mean, I go in this whole thing. I knew I was getting fired. I knew I was. I had the heads up. I had like given them this stupid, arrogant, like, I don't know, maybe it was 6 or 7 page long. Like, you're doing this wrong. And if you don't get your act together and you can't do this and you can't do that, it's like an embarrassing thing. I stumbled on the email that I wrote them. In fact, writing that email, from what I understand now, allowed me to still work there for a while to transition to selling mattresses once again. Because I was like, I was a blessing to them. I got them Emmy Awards. I loved working for that place. And what happened was, I had some stupid dream where I said something at a meeting about how something was, about to be revealed, and it turned out there was something going on. They thought that I was involved in it, and I wasn't, and it turned out to be a mess. Joni and I never really had a hatchet to bury, except for I was very upset, and I felt very hurt because, my good friend was the guy who had to let me go, right? And I knew he couldn't do anything but, let me go in the letter. I was just reading it the other day. But when I got there, they did this beautiful video and they made it like God sent me to them, wrestling, and it was so wild. Do you know that number 55 means to wrestle in the Hebrew? To wrestle. Isn't that wild? 55. Where do you find out the rest of this? This is all background. This is getting you somewhere. So Marcus passes away. I did this video because I was so angry at them. And in the video, I was saying, and I was using the story of Saul. That when David went to work for Saul, they loved David. They're like, yes, David, celebrate David. I felt the same way when I went to work for Daystar, because they were celebrating me. And I remember it was the first Christmas party. And I worked there for a while. I was like, how long will it be before they want to kill me, Lord? That's what I thought. Same story. So what ends up happening is they start hunting, David's kicked out of the kingdom. And then he goes into his cave of Adullam and he's doing his own thing. And then Saul's kingdom gets riddled with all sorts of turmoil and everything else. And in the end, Jonathan, who loved David, like I love Jonathan too, which is pretty interesting. Jonathan ends up falling with Saul. And in the video, I was like, get your act together or you could die. And I explained, spiritually speaking. And what I was doing, but I was metaphorically talking about the organization. Like, if you don't get your act together, things are, and then all this horrible stuff happens. And it's like, not like I ever thought any of it, but my goodness gracious, 22 months, 20 days before Joni passed away, I did that video, the 222s. In that video, I share, of course, Samuel said this, you've done foolishly. Now your kingdom shall not continue. This verse over here, the blessing and the warning. All of it is just, it gets me to think, like, what is going on? Like, why, what can I do? Because not that many people watch me, right? It's not like, I just want to lift people up and encourage people and everything. But what is the point? Like, what's the point? Like, I do this video, I've been holding it off. I've had this in my computer for a long time. I just wanted to go through all of this. I didn't know why. And then it starts to make sense. It's like, maybe it's not about me. It's just about the date. Like, what if there's something about this date that's coming up that's going to get our juices flowing, if you will. There's a lot of prophetic stuff connected to, obviously, to Donald Trump. But there's a lot of prophetic stuff connected to all of you. We just don't pay attention. That's the thing. It's like, you got to wake up, sleeper. Those that sleep, you got to wake up. You got to see God has his hand on your life. What is it that you're not doing right? How foolish are you being that you're continuing to make the same mistake? How foolish are you being that you're suffering and you're holding on to hate and anger and all of this stuff when you're supposed to forgive? You're supposed to let go. You're supposed to love. All of this stuff is strange. So, President Donald Trump gets shot, in the upper part of his ear. And it was a huge event. At 6/11, this happened, Now, why it was interesting to me was 7 days exactly later, at 1:11 p.m. Eastern Standard, that's according to Agent Smith on the report, because we're probably in a matrix, I got cracked in the upper part of my ear, which is why I'm back to selling mattresses again, which is why, the show's changing. You see, I'm pulling away from live shows, which is, you can become more successful financially because people will super chat and people will do stuff like that in a live show that they don't necessarily do. So a lot of, they recommend live shows. But you'll see me doing more produced shows now because it's just a little more difficult than it used to be. But it pierced the upper part of his ear, and 7 days later at the Culper spy ring, this is all like 1776 stuff. They were in Pennsylvania, Butler, Pennsylvania. And then 7 days later at the Culper spy ring, I get hit by a Patriot. A Patriot hits me, airbag explodes, blows up my ear, sent me down. I mean, I always been like bummed out, and because I've suffered physically with Crohn's disease and and ankylosing spondylitis, and I've had a lot of stuff happen to me. When I went to Daystar, for example, because I was on so much medication from when I was younger, when I first got the job there on Labor Day, my Achilles tendon snapped. So here I am in a foreign land, Texas, compared to somebody from Connecticut, then to Long Island, then to Texas, back to Long Island again. I was like basically in a wheelchair. It was on my. So Lord's done some amazing things, but there's nothing like the mental. You get the physical, you can understand the pain, but when you have that nonstop like matrix noise in your head, you're reminded. Maybe God's just reminding you. Maybe you've been pierced because you gave your life to the Lord. That was the thing. There's an old, it's in the scriptures. I don't know where exactly, but when someone was going to be set free, they would allow the master, like if you have a good life serving your master, then you can say, I want to serve my master. And what the master will do is he'll pierce your ear as a constant reminder that you are an eternal servitude. And I'm cool with that because I gave my life to God with that. And I said, give me what you want. Look, I could have gone the mainstream Christian way. I don't believe in any of their stuff. They knew that then. There's no such thing as endless torture. There's no such thing as a literal rapture. All these things, if you have issues with it, that's fine. All you got to do is ask for the truth. You find it. What I'm saying is I could have said the things, all the words that they want. I could have followed the rules that the mainstream religious church teaches. But I got to follow my heart, and I got to be unique, and I got to be sincere. And this car accident was weird because it was at the Culper's firing. The Culper's firing, they were spies in an army, right? They were the spies. Guess in the area I live, which is connected to native land. The whole thing to me is just so beautiful. The fact that it was a patriot. 111 was the time that was hit. And we're coming up on what? 2-year anniversary of that happening. And my life has totally been changed by it. You want to know what else happened on the day of that? The day that I got a reboot. I got a reboot. You know what I mean? Like whacked upside the head. New life, new you. It was a new beginning. Go back to the beginning. Go back to Bethel, Jacob. Remember? Got me back to the store and everything else. The largest reboot of computers around the world. How one bad crowd strike crashed the world's computers. That happened. Same day, 7 days after President Donald Trump is struck in the upper part of his ear. That happens. Wild. Wild to me. Culper spiring, right? You think that that's weird? You know what else is weirder? Is the fact that it wasn't very long before the United States was sharing out the Culper spy ring. Just recently. Culper spy ring. They were like just this random story out of the blue that I've never heard of before until the accident. Spies in a land. I got smacked where the spies were. You know what the name of that place is? You could look it up. Heritage. You know what a heritage is? It's your inheritance. You know what a jubilee is? It's being set free. Just. God sent me to these weird places. Then like strange things happen afterwards. The next day after my accident, I'd never seen a vulture in the wild ever. A vulture shows up. This was on my street. If you take a look at it right there, you see Hilly Appleseed. She saw that Star of Bethlehem in the tree back then. She was pointing it out. November 14th, 2025, I reposted how the White House shared about the Culper spy ring. Now here, take a look at this though. This is even weirder. Okay, I go into the hospital. Now, I've been talking about Artemis and Apollo for how long? Okay, how long? Long time. The twins, the duality. Trump and Elon. I put them together before anybody else did. You know that? Tulsi before anybody else when she was a Democrat. All these things. All over the years. All of these things. This was the nurse. She had an Artemis and Apollo tattoo. So here I am, like, what did I do, Lord? Did I do anything wrong, Lord? What's going on, Lord? How did this happen, Lord? I was so scared. I was going in for an X-ray of my brain to make sure there wasn't a bleed. And this is what I see on the woman's arm. But then it gets a little weirder. Take a look at the 222 on her hand. The 222. Are we in a simulation? Yes, God's simulation. 222. Do you see the 111? Okay. How about, do you want to see the 777? I'm not joking. All it is to me is, take a look at that right there. Right? All it is to me just tells me that this is working together for the good. It's working together for the good somehow, some way, I don't know. Man, listen, I've lost everything. I came from nothing, been given stuff, lost everything again. My children, they were like, I've gone through some stuff in my life, man. I've always kept my morality. I've never shortchanged. I've never been deceitful to get more. I've always operated as if that I was here to represent God and to do the right thing because that made the most sense to me. That's why I'm happy selling mattresses and knowing that I'm the greatest mattress salesman of all time, because guess how many people come in and I get to minister to in person? They don't even know who they're seeing. They're seeing me. Just like when you're at your job, you don't consider that. But did you ever think that God placed you there to be a light in that dark world? You can lift that whole place up. The instant you step into the kingdom, that's the resurrection. It's not about me. It's not really about even June 11th. It's about the third day. It's about waking up. It's about waking up to the truth of who God wants you to be. I didn't have a father, so I turned to God early on. That's how I got involved with, a lot of organizations like the Boys Club. The abuse. Poor kid in a wealthy town. The abuse. But the culture, the diversity. I grew up. I was friends with it. We were all a family. And until we got older and until we got to high school and then things, everybody, I never understood it. I got stuck with the punks by the tree. Literal skate rats. Me wearing my A&P shoes. Shout out to A&P if anybody had that. My grandfather was like the only paternal role. And he wasn't that loving, but he was my pop. 6 years, our backyard was Adam's garden. Well, Pop died, okay? And I probably talked about it on the channel, about how he's from St. Catherine of Siena. That was his church. My church growing up was St. Roch's. I'm not Catholic. Grandfather was. Big time part of the church. My nanny, she would have been a nun, But they didn't make me go to church. I didn't go to church. I went to the Catholic church, true story, by myself. My two friends were altar boys. And the poor kids, because you get the free stuff. If you get you get the church events. I got to go skiing, all of this stuff. Didn't pay anything. It was a football team, got the pads paid for, Long story short, my grandfather loved St. Catherine's. And his funeral was on the 28th. And you see, I wrote on the 28th, 2025, my reading today for my grandfather's funeral. I lived with Pop and Nanny until I was about 6 years old. The story. The reading? Reading's a good reading, man. Let me see if I can just blow this up and read it myself. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples. Okay, listen, because there's a message for you. We've told you there's 55 years in the making. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples. On this mountain, he will destroy the veil that veils all peoples. Stuff that's kept you from seeing the truth of God, seeing the real God, the one that I got a relationship with. I had a guy come into my store. He was an army recruiter. He was a Muslim. He came in, first thing I said, oh, you were a man of God sent to me. Could you imagine walking into a mattress store? I end up talking to him. Next thing you know, I'm ministering to him about him and his wife and everything else. And he was so enamored because I did, I call them tricks. Sometimes I do things, I'll say, hey, did you have a dream within the last night or two? Where I do these things like over the years, I've kind of honed this where if it's meant to be, God usually will give the person some kind of wild confirmation that'll make their hair stand. Happens all the time. I love it. And then I warn him, I go, when you leave, believe me, God's real. It's not about me. But he was like, how do I do what you're doing? I want to know. I said, go out and say, teach me the truth no matter what the cost. Good. And he didn't even buy anything. He came in, talked to him for like 2 hours. So anyway, sorry. He's got the veil over his eyes. You see what I'm saying? The veil, that is to say the flesh, is keeping us from seeing it. So everything that's happening right now, getting together, the world order's coming together, the new, and everybody's like, oh, it's going to be the beast. It's going to be the this. It's going to be that. All it is nonsense. It's not the point. Point is what's happening within us all. On this mountain, the Lord of hosts will provide for all peoples. On this mountain, he will destroy the veil that veils all peoples. The web that is woven over all nations. He will destroy death forever. The Lord God will wipe away the tears from all faces. The reproach of his people he will remove from the whole earth, for the Lord has spoken. On that day it will be said, behold our God, to whom we look to save us. This is the Lord for whom we have looked. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That's a good word, man. That's a good word. If you think about these things and you really start to pull back the layers and you start to realize that perhaps there's more to you than you know, you're going to be looking up and you'll be like, oh my goodness gracious, there was a sunrise eclipse on the East Coast when I turned 53 years old. There was recently. God he'll give us stuff and he'll remind us. But he passed away, St. Catherine's. At St. Catherine's, the day before the St. Catherine's feast. The day before St. Catherine's feast, here, let me see if I can show you this. Because he's wearing the ring on his hand. You can see it. And I have it here. My papa loved him so much. Good man. That's the ring. St. Catherine, guess what she was known for? She was known for being given like a golden ring. Like a mystical wedding ring. The night before what they celebrate the feast day for. St. Catherine, who was like a weird mystic. She was a writer, but she was illiterate. Shouldn't have been a writer. Did I mention I want everybody to get a copy of The Calling? If you can, get a copy of The Calling today. It would be great. If you can, be one of those things. St. Catherine of Siena, writer. I didn't go to school for writing. These stories, there are stories. And that's the thing that more people need to pay attention to. St. Catherine, the story with St. Catherine was blowing me away because the Catholic Church has been so opposed to Donald Trump. And that's what happened in St. Catherine's Day. She was like a nobody little influencer that was a third order nun who brought the popes back out of France, called Avignon. I did this video. Guess how many, 50 days beforehand, 5 weeks beforehand? I do this video about St. Catherine and Avignon, and I talk about this whole thing. 5 weeks later, this is exactly what happens. But you know what else happened? Well, Elon just happens to share out an identical video of my St. Catherine of Siena video. Let me show this to you, because the whole thing is just really weird to me. Here, let me pull it back because you'll see what I wrote. Coinky-doo, 5 weeks. There's the number 5 again. After my St. Catherine video, Elon Musk shares. I mean, it is, take a look at this. Look at this. He's 5. I mean, that's nuts. Come on. You tell me that there's not something to this, right? That I need to talk about these weird things for whatever reason. I think there's something to it. You know? The number 55, this is what's blowing me away because I'm going to be turning 55, okay? We're looking at 55th anniversary of China and the United States. And what do we have? What do we have going on with China and the United States? We have this right here, okay? Let's take a listen to King Charles.
My ministers will also proceed with the introduction of digital ID that will modernize how citizens interact with public services.
Very weird. But it's not like I didn't say the same thing. Because some people believe. Let's take a look at how many days, by the way. Oh, another 222. 222 weeks. He announces this. See, 22. So here's from the video. Now take a listen to this.
Some people believe that when they do these big events, that they're actually big rituals. Now, I'm not saying that's the case, but I've done enough programs about the Olympics and about all of the, these huge shows to see that sometimes things that they've done in the past are suspect because they kind of appear in the future. So I did this YouTube short with Barack Obama and It was Michelle.
Does this New Year's Eve picture from Michelle Obama mean the mark of the beast has been taken? Well, if you look a little closer, it's a little freaky, I'll be honest. The word loading kind of denotes that something's being transmitted and kind of taking over, like a computer program. When things are loading, it's changing the memory of something. And you look up here and it looks kind of like a barcode. I mean, look.
Now, what's weird about all that is I pointed out that in those glasses, you saw what looked like a snowflake, but it also looked kind of like a chip, like a computer chip. I even gave an example. Did you see at the Olympics opening ceremony, which happened, I guess, post this short that I did? And it featured snowflakes.
Like, you guys all get the idea, right? I don't want to have to weigh you down with a bunch of this nonsense, you know? You get the idea, okay? So, twos everywhere. It means Uriel, flame fire, means two Israelites. That's what the 222 means. So I get this gold ring, this golden ring, this onyx ring, which I think is so significant and so beautiful and so powerful. Standing in St. Catherine's of Siena's church, reading the words that I feel like are like, if Jesus was here today and he went into the temple and he read that passage, he'd be like, yo, this is the day we're in. This is the day we're in. God's going to take the veil away from my heart, from your heart. God's going to open our eyes. God's going to release us from our bondage. God's going to take away our reproach. You've been doing wrong. You've been doing wrong up to watching this video. Guess what? Gone. He's saying, you're done. It's over. This is the third day. The third day, it's time to rise. Aztec Stadium. It's going to be the third time it hosts the FIFA World Cup. The whole thing is starting to come together. You know that on June 11th, 2025, this was just last year, there was a strawberry moon. It was beautiful. I was very happy to see it that night. But what I was more happy to find out was that that day they detected the origin of everything. The signal. The origin of everything last year on my birthday, June 11th, 25. The cosmic dawn, unprecedented feat detecting ultra-faint light from the Big Bang. The day God created it all. They caught the signal. Have you caught the signal yet? It's not about me. It's not even really about June 11th, let's be clear. It's about the third day. And I think that June 11th, when I turn 55, because let's take a look. Let's see if we can, let's pull up all these 55s and what they mean. You got 5 hands, right? Well, in the Hebrew, guess what it means? The final rectified bride. The spiritual union of all nations in the Messianic era. 55, that's what it means. 55's when Swedenborg became a mystic, I guess. I don't know. He left everything for that. 55 is when you are ready to atone. It represents contrition, the act of realizing your error, thanking God, and moving on. Means really to wrestle. The whole thing together. 55, 5 alive, 5 below, 5 everywhere you go, 5 smooth stones, 5. 2 tablets, 5. 55. I'm going to be 55. I feel so old. How old are all of you? Tell me in the live chats and let me know. Because there's exactly 55 years between the FIFA World Cup and that day that Sheila Scott began her third solo circumnavigation around the globe in an Aztec Mithri plane. 55 years between. Guess how many days that journey spanned? 55. 55. 55 alive. All right. I think that's it. I mean, there's a lot more I could get into, but I wanted to offer you, I guess, a little glimpse into sometimes how my mind works and because you really are the center of everything. Your story, you're the center, you're the star. You got the main character syndrome, right? There's only one God. There's one spirit that's in all and through all. What if today's the day? What if the disclosure is about to be revealed? The disclosure, which is coming out June 12th, 2026. What if the only alien, we really need to associate with is maybe it's just something that's foreign to us. It's like the voice of a God of love. Maybe he's alien to us, but now God says, I'm tearing down the veil that's been on the veil. So now it's time for you to ask for the truth no matter what the cost. Okay? Pray for each other. Pray for the world. Pray for the nation. Of course, I believe everything is going to be okay. The calling. I had this vibe. I was like, just ask him. Will you buy a copy today? Do it now. Don't put it off. Will you? I'd like to see something. It would mean a lot to me. I don't even know how much to make from it, but that's not the point. It's like, I feel like this novel is important. And you know why? Let me show you a tease. I put out a tease. This is the way I am. I put out a tease in the next novel. And I got to be honest, I probably am not going to finish the next novel at the rate I'm going, working 50 hours a week. And, it's like something's got to give. But I put out a little bit of a, it's kind of like, if you've read the novel, there's a guy named Thomas James, and you find some stuff out, and it's like the future's a little spooky. But it's the book's how we get to that point in the future. And so I even wrote this song. So I wrote this song, I created the song, and then I created AI. And just for the heck of it, because I was at work, and I just thought it would be fun to do. I didn't expect to really release it. I decided, I'm like, hey, make me like Thomas James in the future, because I just was there, And, the character kind of is based a little bit around me. A little bit. All right, take a listen. Tell me what you think.
Oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey. Hey, oh, hey, hey, oh, hey, From the depths of my soul, these words do flow. They are a light for those who ignorantly reap what they sow. And so the day has come when the truth will be known. But how can that be if it isn't first shown? Thinking to the pit of hell, I've been prone to simply roll over and play dead. Yeah! I chose to rise instead.
The manhunt is underway.
And so
Go
listen
home.
closely to these words I say. Harm God's people and there will be a price to pay. And if I may, these words when heard will open the hearts of millions today. You are loved, you are forgiven. It's time to start living. What you do to others, you do to yourself. So forgive and live with me in heaven instead of hell.
Yeah, Yeah, baby. I'm very excited for the next novel, the next phase of my life, and the next phase of yours. I think we're going to be entering into some very uncharted but very amazing waters. Hopefully not too bumpy of a ride. I think it's going to be bumpy. I'm just going to be honest. All right, listen. I love each and every one of you. Do me a favor. Say a prayer for each other. Go to the links in the description. Don't forget, today's the day for the calling. I think it's on sale. I don't know if it's on sale. Amazon.com. And if you've bought one before, please leave me a review. I'm trying to do something, I just had this vibe to ask. Like, if I ask, maybe everybody's like, oh, I always wanted a copy. Maybe do it now. Do it now. It's a great book. You'll be happy. All right, listen. I love each and every one of you. The links to everything are in the description of the video, or you just go to Amazon.com. The Calling, the Book of Thomas James by Jacob Israel. Okay. I love you all. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Let me know what you think in the comments section, too.